Well, hey, it's Brendan.
It's Frank.
And Marty.
And welcome back to what is, shall we say, the first episode proper of the Hammer Barn Project. We are just a couple of alpha males who are all about the ABC Kids show Bluey, and we thought a podcast should be too. So here we are. If you joined us last time, we shared our thoughts on the title sequence, which, when I say that now, sounds boring, but have you seen it? It's got it all.
For 30 seconds long, there's some amazing content.
And it's just it's incredible, and I'm noticing something more every time. A lot of the time, it's what these guys are pointing out to me, but it's meat and am I really noticing it? But it's meat and potatoes time. So let's get into episode 1.
This episode of the Hammer Barn Project is called Ding Dongs.
So episode 1 of Bluey, episode 1 proper, I believe is.
Magic Xylophone.
Magic Xylophone, that's correct. I knew it was, but I was just testing you.
You were just testing the Wikipedia, weren't you?
As you'll probably find out, these two gentlemen sitting next to me are a lot more of research than I am. I've just got a lot of love for the show. Now, to give a little plot summary, so we and the good listeners are all on the same page, I came up with a name for this first segment that I'd like to try out.
Ooh, okay.
We can ditch it if you want, because full disclosure, it is a pun.
I love a good pun. Let's do it. What dad doesn't love a pun?
Yeah, honestly? I know. That's what I thought. I forgave myself.
Blokes in general like puns, right?
Yeah. I don't have the excuse that you guys do of being a dad, because I'm not. But I can I ride your coattails and kind of take that dad energy and get it. Okay, so maybe listeners could even get in contact with us if it gets the thumbs down. But I thought that we could call this first bit the episode recap. Like it's recap, but yap like a dog. Look, it's a bad pun and it's difficult.
It's episode 1, folks. It's early days.
It's bad and difficult to pronounce, which is what you want in a podcast where pronunciation is literally all you have. But
we'll workshop it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a working title. It's a working title.
Re-yap.
Yeah, and a recap. Yeah, it's a recap. But beef.
It sounds very European. I got to be honest.
Well, we got to lift ourselves up to that sort of. I mean, it's an Australian show though, so
true.
No, well, just be forewarned that all my suggested names for the segments we loosely decided on are bad dog puns. And I promised myself I wouldn't pun, but they just it just happened so organically. So, let's Marty, why don't you take it? Let's Magic Xylophone. Give us a bit of a quick little plot rundown. What's going on?
Okay, starts off very in medias res. We've got Dad pretending to play Bingo. Play Bluey. As a piano.
But Bingo wishes that she was involved.
As part of playing around with these musical toys, Bingo finds some sort of xylophone that for some reason seems to have the magical property to freeze people. And so the rest of the episode is showing how that plays out and finding out about turns and how it's good to take turns or give people other turns.
Wait, do you mean there's a moral to the story? I didn't sign up for this.
Story,
yeah, because they kind of they start playing this game. Mum goes to work, and Chili seems a bit happy to be removed from it. And
honestly, it's easy to watch this episode and go, "Oh, this is a Bandit episode." And don't get me wrong, he's in it for largely the whole thing. Chili has some absolute zingers, and yes, I did mean that pun in that way, but she has got some cracking lines in this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but basically, Bandit's sort of frozen, and he's in character sort of thing. Chili's about to go off to work, and she goes, "This little hair has been bugging me all week," and basically plucks a hair from his eyebrows, and Bandit stays in character. He sort of whimpers a little bit and goes, but he still stays frozen. And how many other dads in that scenario would be like, "Oh, come off it, love."
Yeah.
Chili is on fire.
I think when I first started watching this to talk about it, I'm like, man, this is going to be a hard episode to talk about because it's a really good pilot for the show.
Yeah.
It's about play, and it's really this idea that sort of suffused through the whole series, which is dedication to the bit. Yeah. When you're playing, you stick to the game. And I do wonder if kids, like, because they find the xylophone and all of a sudden it seems to have magical properties, and we don't understand whether it actually has magical properties within
You
the
begin to
realm of the
wonder.
show, or whether people are just playing along. And we find out by the end that, oh, okay, no, they're just allowing themselves to be frozen and they're playing along. But it really is just like this dedication to the bit. Just all the stuff that Dad goes through, all those different things.
They're playing the game, and I love this one bit, which I'll get to in a second. But then they learn the lesson, and they end up playing outside. And I suppose you could say that those were like the bare bones of the episodes. But now that, you know, we've talked about the actual structure, I thought I actually had a segment name for getting a little deeper. You know, if we dig a little deeper, you know, for the bones. And I thought, and don't blame this on anyone else, guys, like this was all me again, but I thought we could call our deeper discussion that we're just like, I feel like we're on the cusp of. I thought that this segment could be called the Bark Down. Because it's breakdown.
Currently, my chili on fire pun is winning. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, it probably is. I don't know if you get it though, because it's supposed to be breakdown, but there is a very, very clever dog reference in Bark Down.
Is there?
Yeah, I'll
explain it to me.
I'll explain it to you later.
Okay.
But what you were getting at, Marty, is really interesting. Like the whole idea of if I'm getting into the Bark Down of the episode, I just see if I slip it in there, then these guys will accept it without
Stop trying to make it a thing. It's not a thing.
But you mentioned, Marty, the whole like, do we really know it's a magic xylophone? Is it a game, or is it? But I can't remember. It was probably you, Marty, because you're great at like analyzing these things. It was probably you who pointed out to me the great moments in episodes like this where where Bingo sort of is a little too young, but Bluey gets it, and like Bluey is as committed to the magic. She's a little older, and she understands the fun of knowing that it's not magic, but being part of it. There's this bit where Bandit tries to freeze both of them and freezes Bluey, but Bingo runs off.
Yeah.
And he's like, freeze! And then Bingo's like, like not getting that it's not really magic. And that tells the viewer that, okay, yeah, you know, it's not real magic, obviously, but Bluey's committed. And Bandit goes, what? Oh, never mind. Or something like
Yeah. He puts on that supervillain voice.
Freeze, and then Bingo runs off. He's like, oh, never mind. Like he's straight back into it. So good.
I think you were saying that supervillain voice and that Machiavellian sort of thing, which is emphasized by the fact that he's got this mustache
that's been drawn on
his face.
That's been drawn
big
on.
Curly mustache.
Let's get the text.
When he jumps down and does the muhaha
Freedom!
laugh, I love the way that his pupils just sort of go off in different directions in that sort of crazed version.
Such an organic and not forced way of bringing in that message of play that you mentioned, Marty, and sharing and turns as well.
Well, it's telegraphed really early in the episode where Bingo goes, oh, it's my turn to be the piano, and no, and then Dad straight up just goes, well, taking turns can be difficult. You know, it's there in your face, but it's almost sort of written off as a bit of Dad's just being a larrikin sort of thing. But that's what the whole episode's about. Yeah,
and he calls back to it with his Machiavellian voice when he's like, oh, you were too busy fighting over whose turn it was that I've... And he leaps down on both of them, and he was able to steal the xylophone because they were
Actually, I'm gonna say, like you said, he would too. The actual phrase he uses.
Okay, please do.
Potentially my favorite line of the episode. Go. You ding dongs were too busy squabbling.
Okay, nice.
Like, I think we should have an Australian.
Yes, an Australian moment,
because that's just perfect.
Our American listeners might go, "What's a ding dong?"
Right.
No, it's not a treat you can eat. I believe that's a ding dong in America. Is that right? It's like ice cream wrapped in chocolate or something.
Ding dong, man. Ding dong. Yeah. Yo. That's a real deep Weird Al cut for anyone playing along.
But no, ding dong is basically, as you might surmise, is basically Bandit saying, you silly billies, we're too busy, mucking around, and now Dad wins.
And can I just say, take this opportunity early on to say, anytime I do misquote, even in the smallest bit, because I'm such a pedant, you guys have got to pull me up on it. And you've got to correct me, because I want to know. I want to be corrected. So that's your permission at any time. You got to
We get to go full ding-dong.
You got full ding-dong. Oh, man.
Can we go back to like that first sequence? Because I think
let's do it, Marty. This is the bark down. You can go back to whatever sequence you want.
I love the way it starts, because we start with that sense of play, and that it's Dad. And I think this is where, one of the other things about this show is like setting up the woke points of, it's Dad who plays the games and Mum who goes to work, and that sort of something that, and it's, there throughout the entire series. They're trying to be diverse, and they're trying to have this different, have this more broad viewpoint on things. But I think as well, you get a very quick understanding of what you're in for when he says, I'm about to play that, and I've forgotten the name of the song, but it's
Ronda della Turca.
Yeah, that's and it's like, okay, like that's
be forewarned.
I'm
inviting you guys to correct me, but just be forewarned. I'll chime in as well
every now and then.
and now that I've said that, I'm going to get everything wrong, and I'll look like an idiot. But sorry, Marty, I cut you off.
But yeah, no. So already we're having this very highbrow reference.
To
something, and then we've got he's playing the music, which this sort of tune. And then the bits where, Bluey's running away and he's pulling the piano back, and we've already got the sound effects of like a piano.
I only noticed that today.
And that's one thing this is a general feature of the show, which we're going to circle back to many times, I'm sure. The music in general. Now, in this case, we're talking about a very famous piece of piano. I couldn't tell you what its name is. Brenny, you're our resident muso.
I know it's Ronda della Turca.
Is that the actual name of it?
I think so, and I only know it because, or maybe there is a pun on there and I just haven't done my research, and now I'm looking like that idiot that I was feared that I would look like.
The ding-dong, yeah.
But I only know it because Tommy Emmanuel and Phil Emmanuel used to do this amazing version on dual guitars, and it's just,
yeah.
Look
we might even put a little bit of a clip in here, sort of in the edit. But basically, it's that music is used throughout the entire episode. But the original tunes written across the series, to the point where they've actually put out an album that I believe has gone number 1 in Australia, number 4 in the United States.
Crazy.
The original composition of some of these tunes, including the famous intro, is absolutely amazing
and so deserved as well. It's just, they're masterpieces. They're incredible. Did we cut you off, Marty? Were you on it?
Yeah,
like
sorry,
that first the first sequence?
First scene?
No.
You were calling out that incredible piano editing,
and just the way it was setting things up, and you very quickly get a sense of what we're about. And then I love the next sort of sequence wherein Bingo finds the xylophone, and you have the situation of like, oh, we're refinding a game.
Yeah.
And that's something that appears again throughout the series. Is it's funny because all of a sudden, everybody collectively knows about this thing that's happened sometime before.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a nice thing of like, the whole thing isn't explained of like, well, this is the magic xylophone. It has the properties of, we don't have the origin story of the xylophone.
Everybody knows what's about to happen.
That.
Yeah.
And Bandit just being what a dad, like you can tell the fear in his eyes, because and part of that must be like genuine if Bandit were a real being, because I've got lots of nieces and nephews, and when I see them, they're excited to see me, and you want to play with them, but you also, it can be exhausting, and so some of that exhaustion of no is genuine, but he also still, the moment he hears that ding, he's like, well, my duty to be the dad who plays along, it just takes precedence here.
Commitment to the bit.
And to the point of commitment, end of the episode, basically Bandit tries to, turn the tables on Bluey. He gets the xylophone, freezes Bluey, or so he thinks, and conveniently leaves the source of power sitting there for Bingo to come up, and you get that little moral of the story where Bingo's like, Bluey, you're not sharing turns, and that sort of thing, and that's great. But then right at the end, they turn the tables back on Bandit and freeze him as the hose is just constantly spraying into his face. Dad doesn't break, he just takes it, just all in the face. And the kids are basically just sitting on the porch going, hey, this is good. And then Bingo lifts his arm to like unfreeze, and he's like, no, I like the daddy water fountain. Like, and Bandit's still just there, just in the face.
Yeah.
It's just I love that button on the episode of just Bingo finally having the opportunity to have a turn, like this thing that she's been after the entire episode. And just like, no, actually, it's better to wait.
That leads into another little segment idea that I had.
Here we go.
This one, I thought it might be a good time now to like play a little game.
Oh,
and once again, this is pending.
Is this fetch?
This is pending listener approval, because these are all ideas that, as I'm saying them now, don't sound nearly as good as when I came up with them. But
when you made them up after a couple of beers, they were great.
Yeah. Oh, they were the best. I thought this is a Pulitzer. Let's
hear it.
No, this is a game that I like to call "What Was Altered Willie's Whimper." Because you know how dogs can whimper when they're like emotionally overwhelmed.
Sure.
And you know how I'm like a big tough guy who cries at the drop of a hat.
Oh yeah.
And well, this is the game where you guys have to guess what part of this episode made me the most emotional. But there's a lot of things wrong with this title.
Please explain it. I get the whimpering part.
Yeah. And the what was resulted was the only word I could think of that caused and stuff, and it doesn't start with a W. But I made it because that's part of the fun. And Willie, like, I'm Brendan Williams. No one's ever called me Willie, but it was it was my brother's nickname in school, in primary school for a little bit. So I thought, bring it back.
Righto. I'm sure he'll love that.
Yeah. So straight away, name's horrible. Right. Game might not work, but can you guys guess what part of this episode? And I kind of hinted by when I brought it up, made me the most close to tears, if not over the edge.
I think it's probably the same line that I have.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, you always never let me take turns.
Oh, man. The other problem with this game is now I've just realized there's not only one answer.
Multiple choice.
So that is very correct. Just the whole, and that's perfectly sums up the whole idea of like, I got lots of brothers and sisters. Yep. I'm quite a sensitive dude. No, we're men. We're hammer men. Just edit that bit out. But I got whenever like I was hurt and I just wanted to like that opportunity to say, hey, and just the fact that these kids have been, I mean, I'm going to anthropomorphize them again, but they've been brought up so well that they feel comfortable. Bingo feels comfortable saying this to her sister, and that whole idea is just so beautiful. But there's another moment that it ties into that, and it's like, oh, should I spoil it? Or
go on.
Yeah.
No, I can't quite.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll play this game again and again and again.
But never mention it by name.
Never mention it by name. We'll leave that up to the listeners. I'm not predicting that it's going to be received well, the name, but no, the end, but like right at the end when just no, like Frank mentioned it. No, I like the daddy water fountain, and then just like Bluey's really happy with the lesson that she's learnt, and she just scoots in a little bit closer and puts her arm around her sister, and it's just for a dude with like, I mean, I really like respect you guys, and I really like. I'm so happy for you because I've known you guys for long before you were dads, and I love you lots. And I think that it's so cool that to see you, some of my favorite people, like have that outlet of love for your kids, and so that's cool. And the closest thing I've got is my immediate family, my nieces and nephews. But I'm a guy with 2 brothers. I got 4 sisters, and to see that like. Yeah, I don't know, this example of sisterly love, it's a little bit too much for little Brenny Dubs.
Oh, now you're making me cry.
No, that's what it's all about.
No, that is a cool moment, and I think just to round it out, then the at the very end credits. Now, as we go further into the show, a lot of shows have a typical sort of standard credits. What we find with Bluey as we go into further episodes, there's a little animation in the corner that sometimes, more often than not, as far as their default one, is simply just Bluey dancing as she does from the opening credits. But often they change it and tweak it to the episode that you've just watched. This one, I believe it's pretty much the same animation, but it's old mate Bandit essentially playing that. What's the name of the song?
Ronda de la Turca.
Ronda de la Turca. Dun, 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 dun.
And I love that they've just got him singing it over the top of the tune, over the credits, like you did at the start when he's playing Bluey. But a little bit of a sidebar story that reminded me of this is a bit of a Pixar nerd reference, but I mean we all dig Pixar and
who doesn't?
And you know the idea of its origins. And one of the first movies it made was I reckon the movie was Knick Knack. It's a really early short animation, and they got the fella, I cannot remember his name. I should have researched this before I brought it up because I thought about this when I saw the episode today and the end of the Bluey episode. But they had a fella come in to do the sound for it and do like a bit of scatting, and over the soundtrack. But at the end of the Pixar film, during the credits, they hadn't animated the credits yet. This is the story I heard. They hadn't animated the credits yet, and they just put blah 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 to just as a filler because and they told the guy doing the voiceover,
this will be the credits.
You know, this will be the credits. There'll be the stuff there. But as he was doing, he got over to the credits, and then he's just like blah blah blah. Blah, 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 blah. And he read it out, and the people in the sound booth laughed so hard and loved it so much that it's kept. So if you I think I've learned about that on the extra features of the Finding Nemo DVD. Remember DVDs?
Oh, yeah. Barely.
And you can learn about that if you're as bored as I was that day.
What segment was that? Was that the useless trivia section?
Didn't have a name for it. No. But give me until next time, and I'll find the worst name possible to be true to form.
That was the fetch and don't bring it back segment.
That was
got it.
All of my family pets, God rest them, they were all very well versed in that game. None of them played fetch.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of done. Marty, you look like you got some notes there, mate. You got anything else to add before we get out of here?
It's a full episode. It's got a lot, as they all do.
It's got so much stuff. I think like some of the other things are the parent layer in there.
Yeah.
Like some of the other like best lines are Chili's lines. I think you said, Frank, like she's got some killer lines. I'm going to use, I'm going to take the xylophone with me. I'll use it on my boss.
Yes.
Just the line delivery. Yeah. I think that's one of the other brilliant things about the show. In the, you always never let me take turns.
Oh man,
line delivery is heartbreaking.
Oh, I think Bandit's like frozen with finger up his nose, and Chili's like, oh, just like when we first met.
Yeah,
it was sort of the way that her response to the scenario just validates it. It's okay that they're treating their father in this way. And it also brings in that layer of like they have history as well.
Yeah.
And then they sort of have they bounce off of one another as parents. And it's this relationship.
It's the little
and
things.
That's just set up so nicely.
Yeah, it's the little things like you can have all the best stories and all the best gags and all the things, but little lines like, "Oh, you use it on my bus," or "You always never take turns with me." Like those things,
make it real.
A net of little real things like that is always going to be more effective, and it would be enough if they did that well for the kids. It would be enough if the writers had great little kid Australianisms and kid like familyisms. It would be enough, and it would be enough to have that with the, I use it on my boss, and have the parentisms, and it would be enough to have that alone. But to have such good quality and consistent little truisms like that throughout their speech, and just like lines that if you took them away, you I don't know if you'd notice they were gone, or like they don't need to be there, but it's what makes it.
Probably the other example I give you that, which is not an actual audio line at any point. Bandit's frozen out the front and he's holding the toys. And then the neighbour pushing the pram sort of walks past, gets slower as it gets up to Bandit, and then just sort of quickly increases her pace and just runs away.
So good. Oh, man.
It's just like that's showing the wall of the magic circle. This is where the game sort of starts.
we were
So there is we get a hint of the fact that there is a reality outside of what these people are doing, and they are being weird. They are not being.
And there are other episodes that are great examples of when these parents just go, "Oh, screw the outside world. These kids' world is what's important.
It's got to be done. You could say
it's got to be done." And we were going to wrap it up, but Marty, then after that, you mentioned I'll use it on my boss, and then Frank, you mentioned the neighbor walking past. I'm like, I'm so glad we didn't, because those need to be talked about. And you also, it's got to be done. You also mentioned, Frank, that little hair's been bugging me all day. Like, that's a little parent thing. Like, who hasn't seen a nice, loving couple to like kind of get in each other's faces like that?
And then
it's so true.
I think gives us a kiss on the cheek and maybe pats his head.
I was going to say it, but I thought I'd let you. Like I didn't mention it before because I had some really good puns that I needed to get to. But
which ones were they?
You
clearly haven't done them yet.
You can have one more. I reckon one more segment that we need that you have to come up with.
Okay, sure.
Like the most Australian thing in the episode.
Okay, most Australian thing.
Australian thing in the episode.
All right.
So I already mentioned that line that I'll get about the ding dongs.
Yes, I'll get my worst people on it.
I think the other thing that I absolutely love is the hose. It's got the bi-weave, the little crossy lines, and it doesn't have a nozzle, which is essential. You've got to have the orange thing at the end.
Yeah, it's got the part for the nozzle, but no nozzle.
And the water's just going out and just sort of going everywhere. Yeah. And that's how you use a hose. And
the stopping and starting isn't a nozzle that's designed for it. It's the universal kink.
You know where you can find a nozzle? Down at Hammer Barn, boys. Just saying.
That's Frank being A+ at wrapping it up. Yes, thanks you so much, guys. Thank you, Marty, all the way over on the East Coast.
No worries.
And thank you, Frank, for letting me use all your gear and just having me around.
That's what I do.
Nice. Well, folks, thank you for joining us. This has been the second episode of the Hammer Barn Project. Please join us for many more, recording down aisle 300 at your local Hammer Barn. If you hit the pink flamingos, you've probably gone too far.